Well, Ed Martin being in there is a really, really, really important thing, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. And again, as we talked about, it's not going to happen because Tom Tillis, a red state Republican senator, is stopping the entire thing. So what is it about Ed Martin and the role he's supposed to fill? What is it? It's not January 6th. None of these dorks actually care about that. It's got to be something else. Joining me now, Ned Ryun. He is the executive producer of a documentary I hope you've already watched, American Leviathan. It's free. It's freaking free. It's amazing. American Leviathan, highly recommend it. Ned, what's Tom Tillis' problem with Ed Martin?
Besides the fact he's a weak puke. This to me is one of the things, Jesse, I know you've been doing this a lot on X. I fully agree with you that it's really time for the red states to upgrade a lot of these senators in the primaries next year, whether it's Tom Tillis in North Carolina. It's too bad that we don't have another shot at a primary until 2030 with James Langford, but we do have a shot at Cassidy in Louisiana. We've obviously got a shot at Cornyn in Texas. I would argue Lindsey Graham in South Carolina and Joni Ernst should also be considerations for primaries in 26, because this is the part that disgusts me the most. Donald Trump won in November. Because of Donald Trump, I truly believe this, Republicans have majorities in both the House and the Senate. Donald Trump won. He won the presidency against all the odds in what I consider one of the greatest political comebacks ever, Jesse. He won. He gets his nominees. I don't care if you dislike his nominees, hate his nominees, don't think his nominees are the best. Guess who won? Donald Trump. Donald Trump has put up Ed Martin to be the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. He is the acting attorney at this moment. The term expires on May 19th. Why does Tom Tillis hate Ed Martin so much? And let me explain a little bit what the problem is. There are 23 members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, 12 Republicans, 11 Democrats. If Tom Tillis decides to go through with not voting for Ed Martin, he will not make it out of committee and get to the floor of the Senate for a vote. I mean, this to me is one of those things where vote him out of judiciary, get it to a floor vote. And I actually think what Tom Tillis is doing, Jesse, is probably protecting a handful of other Republicans who really don't want to vote for Ed Martin, and they're making Tom Tillis jump on the grenade. Because I do think they are in some ways worried about Jan 6. I would actually push back a little bit on that, because I do think they don't really want to have a full conversation about the Fed's direction, what actually happened that day. But the other reason, and I think this is really one of those things, the swamp creatures don't really want reform to come to the swamp. And the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, which Ed Martin would be, actually has a lot to do with draining the swamp, reforming the various departments and agencies that I think are deeply corrupt. Jesse, I think they like the status quo. And I think they deeply resent Donald Trump. I think they deeply resent the idea that the swamp should actually be drained. And the role of the U.S. District Attorney for the District of Columbia is a very key role in the draining of the swamp. And I think that's one of the reasons they're fighting Ed Martin.
Well, Tillis made it pretty obvious. I mean, when he was asked why he wasn't going to support him, Tillis flat out said, if he was going for any other U.S. attorney position, I probably would. But since it's for D.C., I can't do it. What is it about this role that protects the swamp? What do they do, Ned?
Well, the district attorney for the U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, I mean, he's involved with approving a lot of FBI investigations, a lot of the reform efforts that would go through the DOJ. They would go through Ed Martin's office, right? There are a lot of people who are deeply comfortable, very comfortable with the status quo of how D.C. has operated for decades. And I appreciate the shout out for American Leviathan documentary. It's really been going on for over 100 years. They don't want to see this change. And the foundation for the swamp that Trump wants to drain is the administrative state. And the corruption that runs rampant inside the administrative state is where Ed Martin's office would actually be dealing with. And oh, by the way, too, the other parts of this that Ed would bring to the table, Jesse, I mean, he wants to make D.C. safe again. I live an hour outside of D.C. I think the thing that's kind of appalling to me is that Ed Martin's made it very clear, I want to make D.C. safe again. And you got Tom Tillis sitting up there going, but January 6th, Ed Martin was one of the first guys to come out and defend the January 6th people that were unfairly prosecuted by Matthew Graves, the previous district attorney, U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia. And Ed Martin was fighting that. And now he gets to go in and actually set things right, not only with January 6th, but also the corruption inside Washington, D.C., which is rampant, I think.
Ned, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about that draining of the swamp at places like the State Department, the Pentagon,
Yep.
EPA. I realize this is not a snap your fingers and make it happen thing because of all the protections these vile little communists have. But how are we doing so far with that?
I think we have made significant strides in the first 100 days. It appalls me when I see people on X whining and complaining that somehow Kash Patel and Dan Bongino haven't already fixed the FBI. I mean, this is years of corruption in the making. This is a heavily politicized agency with the FBI, and they think that somehow less than 100 days, because Bongino obviously is not there for the full first 100 days, that somehow it's going to be fixed and rectified. Like, guys, give it a hot second. Let them cook. This is something where it really frustrates me with the grassroots who I work with closely with American Majority. Like, be patient. Donald Trump won, but Donald Trump winning on November 5th is just the beginning of the solution. In fact, I would argue, Jesse, his winning and giving us a 4-year window is just kind of the end of chapter 1, if we're being honest. Like, this is not going to be fixed in 4 years. I think we could go a long ways towards getting it fixed. But I think you'd have to have political power for a total of at least 12 years with the right people in the right place, implementing the right policies to truly bring about a restoration of representative government and breaking apart of the administrative state and fully draining the swamp. So, guys, let's get behind who's there. Could you ask for anybody better than Kash Patel and Dan Bongino at the FBI? And I think you're seeing a lot of these different nominees, Bessent at Treasury, all these nominees and people that have now been confirmed, starting to put in place the reform items that Donald Trump has wanted. But let's be realistic. We didn't get here overnight. We're not going to solve this overnight. The last thing I want to say, though, really quick, Jesse, about Ed Martin, if he is not confirmed by May 19th, when his term as acting expires, guess who gets to appoint his successor? Judge Boasberg, who has been front and center in fighting the Trump agenda on a whole host of series, specifically on deporting illegal aliens. You really want that guy to be appointing Ed Martin's successor? Tom Tillis should be deeply ashamed of himself. I mean, I know he's already got one primary challenger. I hope that there are maybe one or two others that are fully funded that can take him out in a primary and set the tone and say, if you are going to fight on behalf of the swamp, we inside the GOP have no need for you anymore.
Yeah, let's hope so. Ned, I know it takes time.
Yep.
Where do we go after Trump is done? My question, and I ask it this way. I realize the Democrat Party is unpopular because they're a bunch of rude, ugly freaks and nobody wants them anymore. But Donald Trump has been the seminal figure, the central figure of the GOP for now a decade. That's how long it's been.
Right.
What happens when he's gone?
I would argue the next 3 years about is who will take up the mantle of who will be a strong advocate that firmly believes in America first. And I think the one that really stands the chance to either take up the mantle or fail at is obviously J.D. Vance. And I think J.D. is moving in the right direction. Has he fully sealed the deal with the base, the America First base? I don't think so. Is he headed in the right direction? I do believe that. I think 2026 is going to be a real test for him, Jesse. He's been made the finance chair of the RNC. Obviously, in the first midterm of a president's first term, again, it's a little unusual with Donald Trump since it's not successive terms, but usually the midterms don't go well. And so I think JD has a real test in front of him. If he can somehow manage to keep the House and a GOP majority and obviously the Senate, I think he continues to set himself up to be the successor in 28. But, you know, there's 3 years, which is like, I don't know, 20 political lifetimes away from here.
No doubt it. I just assumed we were going to get killed in the midterms, Ned, just because that's always how it goes. Do you not think that?
I think the Senate map looks a lot better for us than people want to acknowledge. I've also looked at the House map. It's going to be tough, Jesse. I think right now it's a coin toss for the House majority. Looking at these districts where they are and some of the margins, I don't think it's as done a deal as some people might think that Republicans are going to lose the majority. Is it going to be an all-out battle royale? 100%. Is it a legitimate shot that we could keep a narrow majority in the House? Yeah, I think we've got a legitimate shot looking at the numbers because I've already started doing the research on what our 2026 plan should be with American majority action. I'm not overly confident. I want to make that very clear. I don't think it's a done deal. We'll keep the House majority, but it is not out of the question.
Ned, as always, I appreciate you, brother. Come back soon. I would thank you for coming to my YouTube channel, but I know how brilliant it is, and I know you love it here. So subscribe and watch. We're going to start really ramping things up and putting some funny stuff, some interesting stuff out there, some collaborations. Either way, my YouTube channel is officially the place to be. So stick around.